Right, so obviously we've gone to bed again, haven't we, wondering if we're going to wake up to another Donald Trump-induced global catastrophe on our hands, never knowing if it's going to be more tariffs or more stupidity where the Middle East is concerned right now. But of course today has turned out to be all about talk of the latter. What isn't getting talked about as much though in these conversations, in all this mainstream coverage, what is getting missed by the mainstream as they sensationalise the big orange idiot's international incident inducing idiocy, are the plans afoot to deal with him. And plans there are. Conversations happening, alliances being formed to fix the mess in the Middle East. His words keep on driving and causing, and at the heart of such plans is Iran, who are not even worthy of a mention in the mainstream in regards to this story, it seems. Yet they are arguably one of the most influential states in the entire region, the very reason the US love to paint them as public enemy number one, as that is. But are they key to stopping Trump from seizing Gaza and driving the entire population out? Or could the way the mass media paint them play into Trump's hands instead?
We'll build beautiful communities for the 1.9 million people. We'll build beautiful communities, safe communities. Could be 5, 6, could be 2, but we'll build safe communities a little bit away from where they are, where all of this danger is. In the meantime, I would own this. Think of it as a real estate development for the future. It would be a beautiful piece of land.
Would the Palestinians have the right to return?
Spent. No, they wouldn't, because they're going to have much better housing, much better. In other words, I'm talking about building a permanent place for them. Because if they have to return now, it'll be years before you could ever. It's not habitable. It will be years before it could happen. I'm talking about starting to build, and I think I could make a deal with Jordan. I think I could make a deal with Egypt. You know, we give them billions and billions of dollars a year.
If all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off and let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out.
Right, so there are 2 key clips there explaining the gist of what has happened as we've got up today and immediately facepalmed ourselves as the Cheeto dust-infused idiot passing for a president of the United States, Donald Trump, has for the most part just reiterated his stance with regards to the Gaza Strip, that he plans on taking it over, that the US will have it, that the people of Gaza are going to be relocated, still to Egypt and Jordan in his mind. But for the first time he has made it clear that the people of Gaza once removed would not be allowed back. Gaza is a real estate venture for him, and that has become more and more blatantly obvious now, and there's no place in it for Palestinians. The second clip is in response to the other bit of big news to come out overnight, news that was always coming, that I pretty much predicted several days ago, and that was Hamas suspending hostage releases on the basis of Israel not engaging properly with talks regarding the second phase of the ceasefire deal. Netanyahu cannot afford to accept a second phase in any form. His government will be collapsed by the far right of his own coalition if he does. And there's a huge amount to unpack in that in and of itself, so I'm going to come to that, cover that in another video coming out later today. But where phase 2 was not due to start until early March, Trump has now put a clock on it himself, giving Netanyahu a huge opportunity to resume fighting within days. Israel will not accept a second phase, hostage releases having been suspended by Hamas because Israel were not honestly engaging in those talks, has therefore heralded the end of hostage releases. That's over, and I can't see it restarting. As you can imagine, the uproar is off the scale. But let's pick Trump's plan apart for a moment, because for all the damage he has caused diplomatically here, he actually has no route to delivering what he wants either. He has said there that he wants to own Gaza. In another clip I haven't used because he was on a plane and the sound quality was awful, he said he plans to buy Gaza. The Cradle fortunately transcribed it though. Their excerpt reading, US President Donald Trump said he is committed to buying and owning the Gaza Strip and expelling the 2 million Palestinians living there amid condemnation from Palestinians and the UN. I'm committed to buying and owning Gaza. As far as us rebuilding it, we may give it to other states in the Middle East to build sections of it. Other people may do it through our auspices, but we're committed to owning it, taking it, and making sure that Hamas doesn't move back, Trump said while speaking to reporters during a flight on Air Force One on the 9th of February. Trump did not explain who he would buy Gaza from or how the US would own it. There's nothing to move back to. The place is a demolition site. The remainder will be demolished, but we'll make it into a very good site for future development by somebody, the US president declared. Buy it from who, though, Donny? Who is going to sell it to you? Who will you be paying money to? Israel, who illegally occupy that land and have no say-so, no ownership of it? Or the people that you're saying you're going to forcibly displace? I don't think they're going to be selling to you somehow. He said he wants to build beautiful communities for the 1.9 million people, yet in the same breath said they, the Gazan people, are not allowed back. So which 1.9 million people are you talking about here? People of the world again. So whoever is rich enough, presumably, to afford his Gaza-Largo vision then, or buy into it. Steve Witkoff, Trump's special envoy, thinks it'll take some 10 to 15 years to rebuild Gaza, and he's probably right. But they won't leave. It is their land. So provide for them in the meantime. He still thinks he can make a deal with Jordan and Egypt, despite Jordan having already stated they would take such a move, if forced, as a declaration of war. And I bet King Abdullah, arriving in the US today to discuss Trump's nonsense with regards to his country, will have had plenty to say about that, especially amid Trump's claims of giving them billions of US dollars when actually he cut all international aid to Jordan off upon becoming president again. The Jordanian fear has always been that Trump will hold that aid over their heads, possibly the fact Israel occupying southern Syria and therefore control as a result of that of 40% of Jordan's water supply over their heads in exchange for accepting the people of Gaza there is the fear. Blackmailed into taking these people as they fear. Egypt, meanwhile, as I spoke about in a video yesterday, have literally parked tanks outside the gates of Rafah on the Gaza-Egypt border. Warnings being sent to Egyptian President Sisi that he may face a coup if he rolls over in Israel's favour again, as he's done on far too many previous occasions already. Neither state is remotely likely to align itself with Trump's ethnic cleansing, tarring themselves and their own states with the same brush as Israel itself. I mean, Egypt, for example, are now part of the ICJ case South Africa have brought against Israel on the matter of genocide. They're one of the supporting nations of that now. But then he's thrown the Gaza ceasefire into total disarray as well by saying Hamas have got until Saturday, only Saturday, to not just resume the hostage releases bit by bit, but they better release all of them now, all in one go. Some of those releases are contingent on parts of the negotiation for phase 2. And with Israel refusing to engage in that, Hamas have hit pause. Trump, in response, has hit self-destruct. As you might imagine, Hamas have had something to say about all of this, and this leads on to where Iran enters this picture. Hamas said in a statement on the 5th of February that it condemns in the strongest terms and rejects the statements of US President Trump aimed at the United States of America occupying the Gaza Strip and displacing our Palestinian people from it. We confirm that these statements are hostile to our people and our cause, will not serve stability in the region, and will only add fuel to the fire, the statement added. We will not allow any country in the world to occupy our land or impose guardianship over our great Palestinian people. We call on the US administration and President Trump to retract these irresponsible statements that contradict international laws and the natural rights of our Palestinian people in their land, Hamas went on to say, calling on the Arab League Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the OIC, and the UN to hold urgent meetings to address Trump's statements. This is where Iran comes in. You see, their foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, is at this moment in time in Saudi Arabia, and he's been having quite the conversations about all of this with his Saudi counterpart. Saudi Arabia having written a no-holds-barred statement, making it abundantly clear they won't have a bar of Palestinian displacement by a nation they don't even recognise. They won't acknowledge the existence of Israel or an Israeli state until Israel recognise Palestine. So what have Iran and Saudi Arabia had to say to each other then, Damo? Well, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi spoke with his Saudi counterpart Faisal bin Farhan on Monday, during which they both rejected US President Donald Trump's proposal to forcibly displace Palestinians from Gaza. Saudi Arabia reaffirmed its stance against any such plan and expressed support for Iran's suggestion to convene an Organization of Islamic Cooperation meeting to unify responses. Araghchi condemned the US-Israeli plan as a colonial effort to erase the Palestinian cause and criticised Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's recent remarks about establishing a Palestinian state in Saudi Arabia. Both ministers emphasised the need for a united international response. If the OIC convene and present a united front against the US, that is 57 states opposing these plans in one fell swoop. A literal who's who of Muslim nations, mostly from across the Middle East and Africa. And Trump could well have united all of them in common cause against him and Israel. We're talking Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, Turkey, though Erdogan is a prat playing both sides currently. However, that said, he said what Trump is suggesting is akin to a second Nakba. So who knows if he might actually take a stand against Israel properly at last. He might finally stop supporting them from behind the scenes. There's also Iran, Saudi Arabia, Djibouti, which is another Red Sea state, Syria, Iraq, Oman, Bahrain, the entire Gulf, basically, Palestine itself, Qatar, Lebanon, Kuwait, Azerbaijan, where Israel's oil is coming at the moment via Turkey, Yemen, of course, and a lot more besides. Would every nation heed the call? Well, you have to wonder about the likes of Turkey and the vociferous pro-Israel new government of Syria. But even with a small number of exceptions, the Middle East would be united by and large in common cause. And the OIC shouldn't be dismissed out of hand here either. You have to realise this group of countries, the founding of this organisation, happened in 1969 after an arson attack by an Australian Zionist in Israeli-occupied Jerusalem when they attempted to burn down the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It united the entire Muslim world against Israel at that point and created this organisation. Now, very much in the news again, this same area, due to the abuse being wrought on it by Israeli settlers, and the US puppet president that, well, it's for and against who's in charge, really, is it? Trump or Netanyahu? Or let's even bring Elon Musk into the story. But the former National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, as an example, broke into the compound of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and started praying there, forbidden as that was. That was an incitement, and he's been called out from that, even by his own side. So all this comes down to the very founding of the OIC itself, based in Saudi Arabia as they are, as it happens. So I'll be looking forward to that meeting being convened, and probably quite quickly, given events could take a dramatic turn for the worse by the time the weekend arrives. Meanwhile, for more on Egypt's sudden about-face and the parking of tanks on Israel's proverbial lawn, so to speak, check out this video recommendation here as your suggested next watch. Look out for another video tonight covering the Israeli response to Hamas's suspension of the ceasefire too. Far too much happening today to fit all into one video, so I'll split it into two. Before you go watching that or something else, though, please hit like, share and subscribe if you haven't already to the channel so as to ensure you don't miss out on all new daily content and help support the channel too, which is enormously appreciated. And I will hopefully catch you on the next feed. Cheers, folks.